Let's talk now to Sean Bell, military analyst and former RAF fighter pilot. Sean, very good morning to you.
Morning to you, Mike.
Thanks very much for joining us. Difficult to know yet what this latest breach of the ceasefire is, so I'm not expecting you to know too much about it, but Israel saying there is a violation of the ceasefire, and Israel are now going to send intense strikes against the regime targets in the heart of Tehran. So it didn't last long, did it?
Well, it's been a really interesting 24 hours, hasn't it, Mike? I mean, late last night we were reporting on the escalation. We were worried Iran had sort of thrown a load of missiles at one of the biggest air bases out in Qatar, Al Udeid, which I have served out in. And you thought, oh dear, here we go. But actually that all seemed to be quite measured. And then, sure enough, President Trump suddenly announced this ceasefire that had been fully agreed, that was going to sort of come into place early this morning. I have to say, at the time, you looked at it and went, OK, I doubt both sides have agreed to this. And if you look at Iran, they probably welcome the chance to have a breather. They are on the ropes at the moment, and therefore would welcome some sort of ceasefire. But why would Israel agree? They've got their foot on the throat of Iran. They were pummeling away at their missile capability and the nuclear capability. So why did they agree to stop? And I was just wondering whether this was pressure brought by President Trump to be seen as the peacemaker, but an uneasy truce. And as soon as anything happened, it looks like Israel's decided to start up again.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they, in their statement, were quite clear. They said that they had achieved an awful lot of the gains that they wanted to achieve. They had hit a lot of the targets they wanted to hit. And they said that they had achieved the objectives of the operation. But they also said, you know, any violation will be responded to forcefully if it does happen. Israeli citizens must continue to strictly adhere to the Home Front's command's instructions until full compliance with the ceasefire is confirmed. So, I mean, I think you're right. I think that they may well have been sort of persuaded to say all that. But they have. I mean, they say in that statement that they have control of the skies over Iran. Well, clearly that can't be true, can it?
Well, Mike, I mean, it's one thing what they say, but don't forget that they would have to, if they were to agree to a ceasefire, Israel would have to write out that we've been utterly successful, achieved everything we've set out to achieve. But if you look at this objectively, there is still this question about 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. Where has that gone?
Yeah.
If that hasn't been targeted and destroyed, then quite frankly, it looks like Iran can just pick up its program pretty swiftly. Do we know whether that underground facility at Fordow was actually destroyed? You know, there were a whole load of weapons went in. But as I'm a former qualified weapons instructor, you know, you can see holes. That doesn't mean that way below the surface you've actually managed to get through to the facilities below. And therefore, is it a question of weeks, months, years, or decades before Iran can restart its program? Right. If it's the earlier end of that, what has this all been about?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a very good question, and I mean, it shows you how unstable the whole region really has become, and how difficult it's going to be to keep it safe. Because I mean, I thought Qatar would be the last place that the Iranians would target, albeit that it was a sort of an international base and it wasn't, you know, a Qatari target. But nevertheless, you know, nobody I spoke to yesterday before that happened had any idea that it would happen.
Well, I have to say, I'd hate to be, you know, smart after the event, but when you looked at potential sites, the Al Udeid Air Base, it was definitely one. It's far enough away from built-up areas that therefore it probably didn't present a risk, because it clearly wouldn't want to hurt any Qataris. It is multinational. It's vast. I mean, 11,000 people are based there, well over 100 military aircraft, but the aircraft have been evacuated. It is well defended. Iran would have known that, and therefore it knew that very unlikely anything would get in. And of course, they give advance notice. So all of those things, you went, if we were looking for the least worst option, that looked like it. And as soon as that attack happened and we knew that they'd been given warning, you went, OK, this is the Iranian opportunity to step back. It gives Israel the chance to step back. And of course, also, it gives President Trump an out. I hadn't expected him to suddenly announce a ceasefire, but that could have been a masterstroke. But at the moment, it doesn't look like it's holding.
No, indeed. Sean, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Sean Bell, military analyst, former RAF fighter pilot as well, knows a thing or two about that region.